I'm Jason, the world is yours, and today we have a story about Donald Trump hating MeidasTouch podcast rocket past the Joe Rogan experience with nearly double the monthly downloads. The left-leaning MeidasTouch podcast just widened its lead as the top podcast in the country, America, clocking just under 125 million downloads and views in the past month, according to something called PodScribe. We have to come back to that a little bit later. And this is more than double the listeners MeidasTouch received in February when it first dethroned the Joe Rogan Experience for the top spot. The Joe Rogan Experience registered 64 million downloads. The podcast gets its name from the progressive pro-democracy media company MeidasTouch. Its hosts, Mycelis brothers, I believe that's how you pronounce it, the Mycelis brothers, Ben, Brett, and Jordan mix news with banter and often criticize President Donald Trump with recent episodes titled, quote, Trump suffers badly as it all backfires on him, and Trump blows up term quickly and throws a party. Prior to his podcast days, Ben Mycelis, the co-owner of the Los Angeles magazines, was NFL quarterback Colin Kaepernick lead lawyer. Okay, so the Mycelis brothers are official. You can see here, I guess this is according to the podcast, the PodScribe, that you can see the numbers is a little bit small. Let's widen it up. You could see 124 million downloads and views for the MeidasTouch and for the Joe Rogan Experience. Only 64, not only, but 64 million views and downloads. Yeah, I mean, my first question obviously we would have to go to this according to PodScribe, whatever that is. I've never heard of PodScribe or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure the Joe Rogan Experience and Spotify and their partners, they would question, what numbers are being accounted for when it comes to downloads and views. Views are, though that's almost arbitrary at this point. People may count social media views, they'll count other platform views. So, views is arbitrary at that moment. But at the end of the day, for the most part, it does look like the MeidasTouch is the most listened to podcast in America at the moment. I don't necessarily listen to either of these podcasts. I would say my favorite podcast at the moment is probably not my favorite podcast, but the podcast I listen to the most would be Alaska News Nightly. I really like it. It's really relaxing. It's local Alaska news. I live in Las Vegas. I've never been to Alaska, but yeah, I would say Alaska News Nightly. A lot of my favorite shows are, in podcast format now, but, in my opinion, what I would consider a podcast that I listen to, daily or weekly, daily, I would say would be Alaska News Nightly. So let me know your opinion of this story. Do you listen to the MeidasTouch? I follow the MeidasTouch on YouTube. I watch some of those videos, and Joe Rogan Experience, I've followed that on YouTube for many years. But in podcast format, I don't really follow either platform. But do you listen to the Joe Rogan Experience on the Spotify podcast? Do you listen to the MeidasTouch podcast? Or do you listen? What is your favorite podcast? That's my question. Like I said, I'm going to go with, I would have to say the Alaska News Nightly is my favorite current podcast. What is your favorite current podcast? I'm Jason. The world is yours. Today we had a story about the Donald Trump hating MeidasTouch podcast rockets past the Joe Rogan Experience with nearly 122 million monthly downloads. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the $1 donation button, and please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.